Level 1. The boot. You are a 68 whiskey, the Army's designation for a healthcare specialist, which means you are a medic, which means you are the person everyone looks at when the shooting stops and the screaming starts. Your training was 16 weeks at Fort Sam Houston. Classroom lectures, trauma lanes, the pig lab where they let you practice needle decompression on live tissue. And none of it prepared you for the reality. The reality is dust and chaos and the impossible weight of a grown man's body as you drag him behind a wall while rounds crack overhead. The reality is the smell of a cauterizing wound, the sound of a sucking chest wound, the specific, unforgettable way a patient looks at you when they know they're dying and they're asking you with their eyes if they're going to make it. You learn quickly. You have to. Your unit is an infantry platoon in Helmand Province, a place where the Taliban still holds ground, and the IEDs are so thick the roads look like a moonscape of craters. You patrol 6 days a week, carrying a 70-pound rucksack with your medical gear on top, tourniquets, chest seals, decompression needles, IV kits, morphine auto-injectors, the tools of your impossible trade. The other soldiers call you Doc. It's a title, not a nickname, and it carries a weight you didn't anticipate. You are not just a medic. You are the platoon's emotional anchor, their confidant, their therapist, their priest. They tell you things they won't tell the chaplain because you're one of them, because you patrol with them, because you might die with them. Kowalski survives. He's evacuated to Landstuhl, then Walter Reed, then home to Pittsburgh with a prosthetic leg and a purple heart. You write him a letter. He writes back, "You're the reason I got to see my daughter born." Don't ever forget that. You fold the letter and keep it in your aid bag next to the tourniquets. It's the first thing you pack on every mission. It's the only thing that makes the blood make sense. Level 2. The line, medic. You've been in country for 14 months. Your hands don't shake anymore. You've treated gunshot wounds, shrapnel wounds, blast injuries, burns, traumatic amputations, tension pneumothoraxes, and one case of heat stroke that was so severe the soldier's core temperature was 106 degrees, and you had to pack him in ice while the radio crackled with the inbound medevac. You've learned to start IVs in the dark, in the back of a moving vehicle, under fire. You've learned to tell the difference between a wound that's survivable and a wound that's not. And you've learned to make that call in seconds because triage is not about saving everyone. It's about save the ones you can and not wasting time on the ones you can't. Your skills have expanded. You've cross-trained with the battalion physician assistant, learning to do procedures that are technically outside your scope. Chest tubes, surgical airways, the kind of interventions that would get you court-martialed in a garrison hospital, but get you medals in the field. You've learned to improvise, to use a ballpoint pen casing as a cricothyroidotomy tube, to use a plastic bag as an occlusive dressing, to make medicine out of whatever is available. The Taliban uses whatever is available. You do too. The psychological toll is mounting. You've lost patients. Soldiers who were dead before they hit the ground. Soldiers who died in your arms. Soldiers who died on the helicopter while you were still trying to keep their blood inside their bodies. You remember every face. You remember every name. You've stopped sleeping through the night. You wake up at 3 a.m. with the phantom weight of a tourniquet in your hand. The phantom sound of a voice saying, "Doc, I can't feel my legs." You don't talk about this. No one talks about this. The infantry has a culture of silence around trauma, and you're part of the infantry now. And the silence is a second wound you carry alongside the first. You rotate home after 18 months. Your mother hugs you at the airport, and you don't hug her back. Not really, because something in you has been unplugged, and you don't know how to plug it back in. You stare at the walls of your childhood bedroom. You eat meals that taste like cardboard. You go to the VA, and a counselor asks you if you've been experiencing any symptoms of post-traumatic stress, and you say, no, you're fine, everything's fine. You're not fine. But you don't know how to say that. You were trained to save lives. You weren't trained to save your own. Level 3, the senior line medic. You re-enlist. Not because you want to, because you don't know what else to do. The civilian world feels like a foreign country where you don't speak the language, where people complain about traffic and Wi-Fi, and you want to grab them by the collar and tell them about the 22-year-old you watched bleed out in a poppy field. But you can't, because that's not how the civilian world works. So you stay in. You get promoted to sergeant. You become a senior line medic, responsible not just for your own patients, but for training the new medics, the boots, the kids who remind you of yourself 4 years ago. You deploy again, to Iraq this time, to Syria, to the shadow wars that don't make the evening news. You're a combat veteran now, your uniform heavy with patches and badges, your aid bag, a mobile trauma center that you can operate blindfolded. The new medics look at you with a mixture of fear and reverence, the same look you once gave the senior medics who seemed like gods. You know you're not a god. You know you're just a person who got very good at a very terrible job. But you let them believe because the belief helps them survive, and survival is the only metric that matters. You develop protocols now. You analyze casualty data, identify patterns, design training scenarios based on the most common wounds in the current theater. You teach the new medics the things they don't teach at Fort Sam Houston. How to stay calm when the patient is your friend. How to keep working when the rounds are hitting the wall next to you. How to compartmentalize the horror until the mission is over. You teach them that the horror will come back later, and that when it does, they need to have a plan. You tell them this because no one has told you, and you want them to be better prepared than you were. You don't tell them that you still haven't figured out the plan yourself. Level 4. The Battalion Medical Sergeant. You're no longer on the line. You've been promoted to Battalion Medical Sergeant, a staff position that puts you in charge of all the medics in an infantry battalion. 60 soldiers spread across 4 companies, each one carrying the same burden you carried. Your job is to manage them, train them, support them, and, when necessary, console them. You attend the funerals now. You write the condolence letters. You sit with the young medics who lost their first patient, and you tell them the things you wish someone had told you, that it's not their fault, that they did everything they could, that the guilt will fade but never disappear. And that's okay, that's normal. That's the price of caring. The bureaucracy grinds at you. You spend more time doing paperwork than medicine, training schedules, equipment requisitions, medical readiness reports, the endless, soul-draining administrative labor of keeping a battalion healthy. You fight with supply sergeants over tourniquet allocations. You argue with battalion commanders about realistic training scenarios. You advocate for mental health resources and get told there's no budget, no time, no priority. You push anyway because the medics under your command deserve better than you got. Your body is falling apart. The knee you injured in Afghanistan has never fully healed. You walk with a limp that you disguise as a swagger. Your back is a wreck from years of carrying rucksacks and dragging casualties. Your hearing is damaged. The IED blasts, the gunfire, the Black Hawk rotors, the cumulative effect of a decade of noise. You're on a cocktail of medications. Anti-inflammatories for the knee, sleep aids for the insomnia, an antidepressant you don't tell anyone about because the stigma is real. You're 32 years old. Your body is 65. The math doesn't work, but it's the only math you know. Level 5. The Physician Assistant. You go back to school. The Army sends you to the Inter-Service Physician Assistant Program, a 2-year hell march of academic medicine that compresses a civilian master's degree into a blur of lectures, clinical rotations, and the constant crushing pressure of exams. You graduate with a white coat and a warrant officer's bar, a strange hybrid of provider and soldier that puts you somewhere between the medics and the doctors. You can prescribe now, diagnose, perform procedures that were once forbidden. You are the closest thing to a doctor that most soldiers will ever see. You deploy again to Africa this time, a stability operation in a country most Americans can't find on a map. You run a battalion aid station, a tent with cots and IV stands, and a portable ultrasound machine that cost more than your first car. You treat everything: gunshot wounds, malaria, dengue fever, a soldier who got bit by a snake and almost died before you got the antivenin into him. You supervised the medics, the junior PAs, the combat lifesavers. You were the last medical authority. Before the helicopter, the final word on who lives and who dies. The decisions are harder now because they're yours alone. There's no one to call for backup, no attending physician to consult. You make the calls and you live with the consequences. And some nights you lie awake, replaying the calls you wish you'd made differently. There was a kid in Niger, a 20-year-old private with abdominal pain that you diagnosed as gastroenteritis. It was appendicitis. You caught it before it ruptured. Barely. The helicopter evacuating him with hours to spare. But you still think about the hours you wasted, the hours that could have killed him. You think about all the hours. You think about all the lives. Level 6, the retiree. You retire at 38. 20 years of service, 8 deployments, a chest full of medals that you keep in a shoebox in the closet. Your body is a wreck. The knee has been replaced. The back is held together with physical therapy and stubbornness. The tinnitus is a permanent companion. You have a pension, a Purple Heart, and a diagnosis of PTSD that you finally, after 2 decades, admitted to. You spend a year doing nothing, sleeping, staring at the ceiling, trying to remember who you were before the war. You don't find him. You're not sure he exists anymore. Eventually, you find work. You become a civilian paramedic, running ambulance calls in a city where the violence is different, but the wounds are the same. Gunshots, stabbings, overdoses, the slow-motion combat of American poverty. The other paramedics learn your background and ask you questions about the war. You give them the short version, the clean version. You never give them the real version. The real version is for the people who were there, and most of them are dead or scattered or as lost as you are. You start teaching. A community college offers a tactical medicine course for aspiring paramedics, and you take the position because it's something, because it's a way to pass on the knowledge before it dies with you. You stand in front of a classroom of young faces, eager, terrified, hungry, and you teach them the things they can't learn from textbooks. The smell of a traumatic amputation, the sound of a tension pneumothorax decompressing, the specific way a patient's eyes change when they realize they're going to survive. You teach them that they will lose patience. You teach them that the losses will haunt them. You teach them that the haunting is not a weakness. The haunting is proof that they cared. And caring is the only thing that makes the blood bearable. You look at their faces and you see yourself at 19, standing over Kowalski with shaking hands and a torn uniform sleeve, and you tell them the truth you wish someone had told you. You will not save everyone, but you will save some of them. And some of them is enough. It has to be. It has to be.